many heads screaming out, stop snitching? What if Adam and Eve ain't eat the fruit? You think we be able to see the truth? Or what if Albert Einstein ain't think of the nuke? Or Smith & Wesson ain't teach us to shoot? You think there'd be as many players out there if there was no booth? Matter of fact, what if white man hung off a noose? Would it still be cool to say nigga? Or maybe we would make sick figures? Or would we wanna be crackers? And all the whites would be rappers? What if Martin Luther King survived? You think the New Orleans flood would've caused him to drop and die? I wonder what if and see what is. Stand back from the picture and ask yourself why. What if life wasn't all you thought? What if everything you knew was gone? What if we switched to rights and wrongs? You think you'd change your route to the road we on? What if life wasn't all you thought? What if everything you knew was gone? What if we switched to rights and wrongs? You think you'd change your route to the road we on? If Christopher Wallace never got murked, how much money would Sean Carter be worth? What if Tupac never got hit with the flame? Would the game still have change filled with these lames? What if Jabari wasn't speeding down the street? What if the bullet Malcolm sent never hit Zeke? A black guy dropped off at the house instead of the stop? Or Ali never got bopped by the cops? What if the little homie Easy didn't die? Stand back from the picture and ask yourself why. What if life wasn't all you thought? What if everything you knew was gone? What if we switched to rights and wrongs? You think you'd change your route to the road we on? What if life wasn't all you thought? What if everything you knew was gone? What if we switched to rights and wrongs? You think you'd change your route to the road we on? I don't know. What if? What if? What if?
Try to keep it together, but we're falling apart. welcome to the Fourth Branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening.
Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the Fourth Branch program. Welcome. First, I ought to apologize for not being here yesterday. Our tech wizard could not figure out what was going on with our broadcasting system, so we could not air the program yesterday. We do apologize for that. Second, we do have a small deviation in the program today. We will be talking about a few topics. They're all related. It's Medicare Part D. We will talk a little bit about tax reform. We will also touch on Green New Deal and as well as wealth distribution. But before we get to that point, we will also address some of the questions that were asked about the program, but more specifically in regards to, quote, war on blacks, end of quote. Now, war on blacks is the banner we use in the discussion of race relations in America. Now, since we began this program, especially since we've added that particular topic to the program, we have had our share of, well, disgruntled people who are not happy that we're doing that. Some people even wish us dead. Others wish at some point we just go away. But one particular question that I wish to answer today, which will help to understand, number one, as to why this program cannot go away, and two, why it is important, even if you are not impacted by what the race relations discussion put on the table, which I kind of doubt whether you're white or black. You, some point in your life, do have to interact with people on of other races. Now, while the discussion here is mostly, I would say, focused almost exclusively on the interaction or the dynamic between blacks and whites, the essence of the program can apply to many different can apply to interaction with other races as well. Now, I chose to discuss the interaction between blacks and whites. If you recall, we started to look at the period, the era of slavery here in America. Now, for those of you who have not watched this program before, I strongly suggest you visit the People Branch YouTube channel. Now, on the People Branch YouTube channel, you will find that there are many different topics we've already discussed on this program. But more specifically, in terms of the race relation, you will find that we have several videos, plenty of videos in relation to that particular topic. Those videos usually are either under the banner of race relations, war on blacks, or institutionalized racism. So those are the title, the banners you should look for if you are interested in the war on blacks, or rather on the race relation discussion. Now, I also would encourage you to visit the peoplebranch.org, which is the site in which we publish several articles for different about different topics. It could be about race relation, it's about social justice, social issues, etc., etc. You'll find, especially in terms of politics, you'll find that there are a number of articles that you will agree and disagree with. But nevertheless, this is where we publish various articles which address various issues, different issues. Now, we will make an announcement, and when we come back, we will answer the question, that very specific question. As mentioned earlier, we had different point of views about race relation in particular. But one particular question actually caught my attention, and I wish to answer that question, and maybe it will address other aspects of the discussion that we have here, because the discussion is not going away. Today we decide to address those topics that I mentioned at the top of the program, and the reason is because at this point we decided that there are some misinformation out there about various aspects of the debate that's going on in the country. And since here we do not care about which political party you belong to, what your political affiliation, we debate the issue, we discuss it to the best of our ability to provide you information that helps you making decision, whichever political affiliation you are, whichever political affiliation you belong to. It's not important to us as to whether you want to be a Democrat or you want to be a Republican, but rather that there is a lot of noise, and because of all those noises that are going on in the country, it is sometimes almost impossible to know or to figure out who is right, who is wrong, because each party is trying to push their point of view, their agenda, so they frame the discussion based on whatever that they're trying to accomplish. Now, we'll come right back to have a very, very short answer to the question that was asked, which is, which war on blacks? That the question that was asked to us by, actually, when we first started the program, it was asked by, well, actually it wasn't asked, it was pushed back by one individual who think that we're doing more damage than we're helping. Now we start having a number of other people that are asking, which war on blacks? When we return, we will address that very issue about war on blacks.
Ignorance, they say, is the biggest threat to any democracy. Indeed, it is. Plato, a Greek philosopher born in 427 BC, said that ignorance is the root and stem of all evil. Today, members in the Republican Party wear ignorance as a badge of honor, while the rest of the country watch powerless the destruction of a country which was once the envy of the world. The media is the enemy of the country, said Donald Trump. The Democrat legislators are obstructionists for not going along with everything the president wants. The Department of Justice is biased for investigating corruption in the Trump administration. This is the United States of America. Any question?
Donald Trump is wrong to call the media the enemy of the people. Throughout history, dictators, authoritarians have always tried to delegitimize the media in order to get away with corruption, scandal, and yes, even abuse. Adolf Hitler did exactly the same thing in 1933, accusing the media of fabrication. Journalists are not in the business of fairness. Our only business, is to be objective. It is our duty to hold Trump and every administration accountable. Today, it is urgent. It is necessary. It is critical. Our very freedom depends on it. Which war on blacks? That is the question that was asked to me. In Delaware, there was a gentleman on a wheelchair. He's actually wheelchair bound. He's been on the wheelchair for the longest. Black gentleman, and he unfortunately I am not able to pull the video for that particular example, but the gist of the story is he was shot by two cops. One had one of those machine gun, and they gunned him down while on the wheelchair. The explanation, the obvious one. He was going behind a car, actually wheeling the chair behind a car, and according to the police officers, they were afraid because they didn't know if he had a gun. Now, if you must know, both officers are still on the job because, well, that was justified because, you know, they were afraid. This is Alton Sterling. The picture you're looking at is that gentleman, Alton Sterling. If you take a very close look at the picture, he is pinned down on his back on the floor by two police officers that pretty much restrain his whole body, feet and hands. As you can see, well, while on his back, if you notice that one of the police officers had a gun pointing on his chest. The rest of the story, he was shot while on his back. The police officer's explanation, his hand, that, as you can tell, both hands were completely restrained, but their version of the story was, well, we saw that he was doing something with his hand and we thought he had a gun. You want to know the end of the story? Both officers keep their jobs. What you're watching is Michael Slager, a police officer in South Carolina, of a gentleman that's running away from him. The first thing that he did, he pulled his gun and shot him like an animal. You want to know the end of the story? On December 5th, 2016, a jury was hung Yes, there was a hung jury. You asking which war on blacks? And it's not just about the police officer executing unarmed black men. It's about the whole society that's condoning the action. In all three examples that I just gave you, it is mind-boggling that you would think in a civilized society, in all those three examples, that the police officer would just walk away without any punishment. Yes, there is a war on blacks. And every day, blacks fall victims of in the war. Casualties have been mounting, and society has been condoning the action. Yes, there is a war on blacks. Yes, there is a war on blacks.
Hi, I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program. War on blacks is a topic added to the Fourth Branch programming in order to discuss the intricacies, the complexities of race relation in America. The goal is threefold. 1. To bring attention to the various forms of prejudice, discrimination, and racism in the country. 2. To expose the undeniable presence of such in every aspect of life and every corner of our society. 3. To extricate us all from the ignorance, the indifference, or the complicity. The ultimate objective is to make the discussions of those issues, racism, prejudice, discrimination, a normal part of our lives. Then, and only then, will we as a society be able to eradicate the problem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Abraham Joshua Heschel exclaimed, "Racism is man's gravest threat to man, the maximum of hatred for the minimum of reason." Join me in the journey to restore equality. Or would you please get out of the way? Thank you.
When we return next time, we will continue the conversation about race relation in America. You may recall that we had crossed the Civil War bridge and we are been talking about the state of the Republic beyond slavery. So what happened to blacks beyond slavery? But today, as mentioned, we will approach the topics of well, various topics, but they all somewhat related. I've always wondered as to, in fact, I've never been shy, if you've been watching this program, talking about the gullibility, the naiveness, and the ignorance in the Republican Party, of the Republican constituent, to the point that quite a few people have already given me a piece of their mind. Now, I don't mind. In fact, we welcome comments, criticism, we welcome feedback, good or bad. We mentioned before that this program is not to promote a political party over another political party. We do not have any political agenda. Now, granted, I understand that a number of people feel that there are ways to soften the language in order to attract people. And my answer to those comments or to those suggestions, the Fourth Branch program is not a feel-good program. We're not here to make people feel good. There are already many programs out there that do exactly that. Our objective is to expose the truth, and which is usually something that's not pleasant. Not everybody can handle the truth. So as such, they look for venues, they look for other venues where they can have their ego massaged, their fragile emotion handled with care. And in our opinion, that's not going to help any in the pursuit of a perfect union. Because unless one recognizes the problem, then there is no solution that can be applied to the problem. Now, on to the discussion. I never understand, I have a very difficult time grasping the rationale behind millions of individuals, millions of people who decide to support legislators, to elect officials, and by any observation, those elected officials, those representatives, everything that they do seems to be detrimental to those who put them in that post. Now, let me explain it in a different way. I'm going to give one example, which is part of what we propose to discuss today, which is the tax reform, tax cut. Now, you may recall, I might as well mention that we did have quite a few months in the past a program in which we discuss the entitlement program. I don't recall how many video of such we had, because the program ran for almost 4 weeks. Every day we discussed a different aspect of the entitlement program with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, welfare, and so on. So we spent quite a lot of time talking about that. And what we wish to talk about today, we're not going to talk as much in detail about those programs, but if you are interested in the conversation, I strongly suggest, once again, you go to the People Branch YouTube channel, and there you will find those are the steps that you can take in order to get to the People Branch YouTube channel. And from that point, once you get to the channel, then you can navigate and find videos that are exclusively related to this topic. Now, I mentioned before, and I'll mention it again, it is not just for conversation's sake when I say that Republican legislators, elected officials, they couldn't care less about their constituent. And by that, I'm going to give you an example of such, because there seems to be it comes to a point almost as if sometimes I feel hopeless that there is never going to be a way to reach people who are being harmed by Republican legislators, the same people that they elect in office, and yet, for reasons that are beyond logic, beyond understanding, those same people continue to elect and re-elect the very individual who are working against their interests. Now, here's an example. Tax reform, tax cut. Now, you may recall, yes, I still don't have it. You may recall that in 2017, Republican overwhelmingly, and by overwhelmingly I mean all of the Republicans, voted to pass a $1.5 trillion tax cut. There was no Democrat vote because all the Democrats voted against it. Now, the way that Republican legislators in Washington always get away with doing something, they always frame it as politics. But again, it's not because it's not politics. It could be. There are some of the things that they do that just politics, but others are just pure deception. And I'm going to show you with that particular example that it was not politics, it was deception. So when they introduced the $1.5 trillion tax cut, what happened? They drum up the beat that you, the constituent, we, the people, we're going to have a huge tax cut. That was the campaign issue. They were out there, all of them, out there drumming the beat. It's good for the people. Now, I don't want to go over the aspect that it was unnecessary, useless, waste of money that we discussed again before, and they all available on the People Branch YouTube channel. I strongly suggest you really spend some time watching those videos because we'll provide a lot of information about the entitlement system here in America. Now, they went around and telling the whole nation that we, the people, going to get a huge tax cut. In reality, that was not true. And the reason I know that is because 1.3 trillion, actually 1.2 trillion out of that money went directly to large corporation and wealthy individual. Now, to put it in perspective for you, imagine that you take a $100,000 loan and out of that you remove $3,000 for the people. The rest of the money goes to large corporation and wealthy individual. Think about it for a moment. $100,000 borrowed, only $3,000 goes to the people. The $97,000 out of the $100,000 went to large corporation and wealthy individual. Now, as I heard a number of people, especially Republican constituents, say, oh, that's something. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But I get something. That's why people who see $40, $60 extra on their paycheck, they're happy. Hey, Trump give us a raise. And I've been saying from the very beginning, it was not a raise. Money was borrowed. That means you have to return that money. That's the way it works. You cannot go and borrow money and think, well, somebody has to pay for it. If you don't live long enough to pay for it, your children, your grandchildren will pay for it. Someone has to pay for money that was borrowed. And that's what Republicans did. They borrowed $1.5 trillion. They give us, among all of the people, get $3 out of the $100,000. The $97,000 went to large corporation and wealthy individual. But here's where they deceive you. First, they told us that they were going to take that loan, they're going to borrow money to give us a tax cut. That's what they said. That's how they frame it. They never mentioned large corporation is going to get any money. They never mentioned that wealthy individuals are going to get any money. They said it was a tax cut for the people. That's deception number one. But while they were telling us that, they were crafting legislation that clearly say the people were going to get only $3,000. Which means it wasn't a mistake, it wasn't a misunderstanding, and it wasn't a surprise. They were the one crafting that legislation, which means they deliberately lied to us. They deceive the constituent. That's one. And when they finish crafting their legislation, they send it to the president signed, everybody clap, they cheer, they went to celebrate. But they forgot to mention that we, the people, are responsible for the whole thing. You did not know that, did you? And I've been saying that all along, well before we get to this point. Since the beginning, since the day that they introduced the idea of the $1.5 trillion tax cut, I've been saying all along that it's not a tax cut. It's a loan that we, the people, are responsible for. Now, it's one thing if you go to the bank, you borrow $10,000, you use $10,000, then yes, obviously, when the bill comes due, yes, it may be difficult, but you borrowed the money, you used the money, then you pay the money back. But in the case of what the Republican legislature did, they borrowed $1.5 trillion. They gave us 2% of that. Now we're responsible for the whole thing. Now, to put it in perspective for you so you understand that someone went and borrowed $100,000 from the bank, take $3,000 out of that and give to you. But you're responsible for the whole $100,000, which means the whole loan is your responsibility to pay back. Now you tell me if that person is working on your behalf. Does that look to you that it's someone that's working on your behalf? That's why sometimes it's hard for me to understand what exactly, how do Republican constituents, how do they process information? What exactly, how do they see something like that? Someone who clearly did something that's detrimental to you. And even if you're not, as I mentioned before, even if you don't live long enough for you to pay back that money, your children, your grandchildren will have to, because it's a loan. When you borrow money, you have to return that money. There is no if and but about it. And that's what your Republican legislature did. Not only they did that to add more financial burden to us, but they also lied to you. They deceived you because they said they were doing it for you. That's what they said. Now, you may have not understood all that because you may not have a business background, or as far as you're concerned, if you see $40, $60 on your paycheck, you think, hey, great, I got something. No, you did not get anything. Because as I mentioned from the very onset, not only the $40, the $60 you saw that you called a raise on your paycheck, you will have to pay for that back, and on top of that, you have to pay for what was given to the large corporation and wealthy individual. Say, wait a minute, they gave it to large corporation and wealthy individual. Why shouldn't those entities take care of it? It's because in the legislation that the Republican crafted, they clearly say that, they clearly put it on the legislation. The large corporation and wealthy individual have to return zero. And this is not a joke. They had to return nothing. The whole $1.5 trillion become the responsibility of we, the people. And that is the kind of things Republican legislators do. And the question is, how in the world that constituent, Republican constituent, can justify? And this is an example. We're going to give you more examples. As I mentioned, today is dedicated for something else. We're not going to talk more about race relation today. We're going to continue the conversation about this aspect, because it is impossible for me to understand the state of mind of an individual that you have an elected official, a representative who's supposed to work to do things that benefit you, and yet they work, and everything that they do, legislation that they pass, work against your interests. And yet, every time you have a chance, you put that person back in Washington. So it is mind-boggling to me. I need someone to explain that logic to me, because it's impossible for me. I try to look at it from so many different angles. I cannot understand how you would give a sharper knife to someone who stabbing you. That just doesn't make any logical sense. And that's the reason you don't see me shying away from calling the Republican constituent for who they really are. They're naive, they're gullible, and they're really ignorant individual, because nobody who has an understanding, who has a way to process information, can possibly justify handing someone who is doing you harm a better weapon. It just doesn't make any logical sense. Now, when we return, we're going to show you something you should already start seeing. You start paying some of the prices, because I'm certain that you are, because the example I'm going to give you put this issue that I have been talking about really front and center, especially during the tax season, because there is no way in the world that during the tax season that you could possibly escape the high cost of ignorance when you supported the Republican to do what they did to the country in terms of borrowing the money, and now we become responsible to pay it back.
I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events, as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Stay with us. We will be right back.
After reading several books based on presidents and on Obama specifically, I found that they're typically partisan. The Obama legacy targets the heart of the issue by giving credit to the president where it's due, but definitely coming down hard on Obama on his bigger failures, like his handling of the Syrian crisis.
If you are in college, going to college, you are an educator, a faculty member, or someone with interest in government or politics, The Obama Legacy is definitely a book to read.
My professor recommended The Obama Legacy.
A friend actually recommended The Obama Legacy.
I would highly recommend this book for anyone, whether for academic use or leisure reading.
I would recommend this book to anyone out there searching for an impartial and unbiased look into Barack Obama's tenure as president.
I would definitely recommend this book as a good read for both liberals and conservatives.
as I was saying earlier, that the tax cut, the $1.3 trillion tax cut, that Republicans lie to the constituent. They lied to the constituent about the whole thing. They said that it was a tax cut for the people. But only $300 billion of that money were distributed to the people. The $1.2 trillion, which is the larger piece of the pie, was distributed, was actually given to large corporations and wealthy individuals. So they lie to the constituent, they deceive the constituent, and now we, the people, we have a $1.5 trillion bill added to our debt. We have to pay for it. We, the children, our grandchildren, are responsible for that debt. First, there was no reason for it. So for as long as I've been trying to figure that out, to understand it, why would an individual continue to support a legislator, an elected official, who does everything against that person's interest? Why would anyone do something like that? I will never be able to grasp that concept, but that's the state of affairs. I'll be right back. Now, I mentioned before that I was given the example about the fact that for the past decade, I have been doing my brother's taxes. And for the past decade, he had received an average of $14,000 federal, $14,000 for a decade. Now that's just for the federal. The state, sometimes he received some money, other time he had to send some money away, some money back rather. Now remember I mentioned for those individuals who saw a $40 or a $60 increase in their paycheck, who celebrated the tax cut as great. This is a great thing. Get more money on my paycheck. In fact, I have a few people that make that argument as if, well, what do you know? I don't care what happened. I get more money on my paycheck. And since the day that the Republican introduced the idea of borrowing $1.5 trillion, I've been saying that bad idea. And to those who thought, well, I don't mind getting a little bit more money, it's not money, it's not free money. It's money that was borrowed that ought to be returned. When you go to a bank, you borrow money, you have to return money with interest. So there is no escaping that. So the $40, the $60 you saw on your paycheck, not only you have to return it, but what makes it even worse is the fact the Republican legislators never told you that the money that they gave to large corporations and wealthy individuals, well, it is your responsibility too. They forgot to tell you that part. So I'm certain at this point you already started seeing, at least feeling the effect of that. I mentioned that my brother voted for Donald Trump because he believed Donald Trump was going to make America great again. For a decade, the average refund he got was $14,000, federal refund. This year, which means for 2018 it is, for 2018, guess what his refund is? Well, he has to return money. And I joke about it and say, well, Trump is making your life great again. Because maybe getting $14,000 refund, you didn't need it. Trump just takes it from you. What a great way to make America great again. Now, all that I just mentioned, it's easy to just point fingers to Trump. I mentioned that before, and I'll mention it again. It's very easy to just single out an individual and say that individual is responsible. But I know better that Donald Trump knows nothing about anything when it comes to governing, when it comes to legislation. All that is the work of the Republican legislators that Republican constituents placed in Washington. Yes, it's not Donald Trump. Don't look at Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump, he doesn't read. Even if they were to give him the document for him to go through and understand, he just doesn't care. So this is the work of the Republican legislators in Washington. And whatever that they do is to the detriment of the constituent. So the question is, why would anybody support someone, a representative, a governor, a mayor? Why would you support someone who works against your interests? That I'd like to get an understanding of that, because I cannot grasp that concept. It's not a Democrat thing or a Republican thing. It just to me it's impossible to understand it. That why would you go against? Why would you be against your own interests? Because that's really what it translates to. You take someone. Now, it's one thing that the person just walks in for the first time and you voted for the person. Hey, you didn't know. But the next election, you saw what the person did and you voted back, you re-elected the person, and you re-elected the person again and again and again. That is mind-boggling to me. Because anyone with an average intelligence should be able to say, wait a minute, I didn't put you there for you to work against me. In the next election, you should take care of that. Instead, That's not what we're watching. Now, when we have the wealth redistribution, now I talk about the tax reform today, and we will continue that conversation along with the race relation tomorrow. So we will approach half a piece of that conversation, and we will continue to show you that your Republican representative are not working for you. They not working for you. They've been working against your interests. And we will present everyday example as to what they're doing that goes against your interests. Today we show you that the $1.5 trillion tax cut was never meant for you, not for the people. It was for large corporations and wealthy individuals, but we the people get to pay for it. That's not working for the people, because the legislation could have, at the very least, let's just say for sake of conversation, that that's the route they wanted to take, to give money to large corporations. At the very least, they could have said the corporation should pay it back from their profit. No! Why should they? Let the people take care of that. No, I would not vote that person back in office. This is what you would call the act of an ignorant individual. Why would I? Why would I put back in office someone who works against me, against my interests? Why would I do that? That just doesn't make any sense at all.
Ignorance, they say, is the biggest threat to any democracy. Indeed, it is. Plato, a Greek philosopher born in 427 BC, said that ignorance is the root and stem of all evil. Today, members in the Republican Party wear ignorance as a badge of honor, while the rest of the country watch powerless the destruction of a country which was once the envy of the world. The media is the enemy of the country, said Donald Trump. The Democrat legislators are obstructionists for not going along with everything the president wants. The Department of Justice is biased for investigating corruption in the Trump administration. This is the United States of America. Any question? Donald Trump is wrong to call the media the enemy of the people. Throughout history, dictators, authoritarians have always tried to delegitimize the media in order to get away with corruption, scandal, and yes, even abuse. Adolf Hitler did exactly the same thing in 1933, accusing the media of fabrication. Journalists are not in the business of fairness. Our business, our only business, is to be objective. It is our duty to hold Trump and every administration accountable. Today, it is urgent. It is necessary. It is critical our very freedom depends on it.
I do thank you for spending the time with me. I hope you enjoy the program. If you have any questions, suggestions, comments, criticism, do not hesitate to contact us. Should you have a topic you would like us to talk about, let us know. We'll research it and we'll debate it right here on the Fourth French. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or evening, whichever it happened to be. Good day.
The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.